In this video, I'm showing you 3 intermediate level exercises for building up strength and stability in and around your sacroiliac joints. Now, these 3 exercises are going to build directly on top of the level 1 exercises that I put out in a video a while back. If you haven't seen that video, I strongly recommend watching it before continuing on here. I'll put a link for that in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. But if you've already seen that video and you're familiar with the level 1 exercises, then you're all ready to go. The first exercise here is a marching bridge, and this movement builds directly on top of that modified single leg bridge that I introduced in part 1 of this series. It's really helpful if you're proficient with that movement before progressing to this one. But the setup itself for this exercise is really simple and it doesn't require any equipment whatsoever. Just bend your knees to 90 degrees and go flat down on your back. From there, your head is going to be resting comfortably. Your feet should be almost touching, about 4 to 6 inches apart. And I like to come up onto my heels during this exercise because it gives me better connectivity to my glutes and hamstrings. It just feels better for me. So if that works for you, use it. And then from here, you're going to shift into a posterior pelvic tilt. So think of your pelvis like a bowl in a horizontal position here, and you're going to be pouring liquid out of the back end of that bowl. In order to accomplish that, you're going to engage your abdominal muscles and flatten the lower back to the ground, pouring liquid out the back. You're going to hold that posterior pelvic tilt throughout this movement. I like to place my hands on my abdomen and just lightly tap as a reminder to keep those muscles active as I'm going through the exercise. And then from here, what you're going to do is engage your glutes and push your hips up off the floor, getting to the point where your torso and the tops of your thighs are in line with one another. And from here, what you're going to do is consciously think about pushing all of your body weight through one foot. So I'm going to be starting with my left, pushing all my weight through that left heel. Right foot is going to come off the floor. Hold for 2 seconds. Slowly lower it. Shift over to the opposite side. Hold for 2 seconds. Slowly lower. Consciously shifting your body weight from one side to the other. Now, what's important during this exercise is that you stay in that posterior pelvic tilt, and like I always tell my patients, you want to think of your abdomen like it's a dinner table that's already set with plates and glasses with liquid in them, and you want to make sure that you're not tipping to one side or the other. Keep those plates and glasses nice and flat so that you don't spill anything as you're marching. If you dip to one side like that, you've lost the point of the exercise. Staying nice and flat, torso stays in line with those thighs, shifting back and forth, getting that pelvis accustomed to being rhythmically loaded and offloaded, back and forth. Ideally, you'll get to the point where you perform 20 to 30 total repetitions. That's 10 to 15 reps on each side, and then you'll move on to exercise number 2. Exercise number 2 is a single leg deadlift, and it's a fantastic way of strengthening those big, powerful muscles in the posterior chain and building whole body stability from a standing position. And when you're first starting out with this movement, I strongly recommend using a walking stick or a broomstick for balance. Once you've got that, you're ready to go. Starting position for this exercise, you're going to be standing straight and tall. Feet are going to be side by side, almost touching, and then from here, you're going to shift all of your body weight onto one side. In this case, I'm going to be starting with my left. Opposite foot comes 1 inch off the floor. You accomplish that by bending the knee on that floating leg. The weight distribution on the weight-bearing side is really important. You want the majority of your body weight, about 60%, to be back on the heel. And you want to make that conscious effort before initiating the actual movement here. The remaining weight, about 40%, should be distributed through the ball of the foot and the toes, with a good portion of it going straight through the tip of the big toe. So think heel, ball of the foot, big toe. Then from here, you want the broomstick or the walking stick positioned in the opposite hand from the weight-bearing leg. So in this case, left leg is the anchor, it's weight-bearing. Right hand is holding the walking stick, and it's positioned about 12 to 18 inches out in front of me. And then from here, you're going to lightly brace the core, keep the angle of that right leg constant as you tip yourself towards the floor. bending only at the hip. So, straight and tall with the posture, you're going to feel almost like you're falling forward here. At the end, you're going to feel a good amount of stretch through the bottom of your foot, your calf, and your hamstring. Hold for 2 to 3 seconds, and then engage that stretch, all those muscles that are elongated, and use them to pull you slowly back to a standing position. Then repeat, lightly brace, staying nice and tall. Gaze stays constant. At the maximum stretch, hold for 2 to 3 seconds. Use the elongation of those muscles to slowly and steadily pull you back to that starting position, maintaining control throughout the movement. You'll perform 5 to 10 repetitions, switch over to the opposite side and repeat. Now, one thing that I should mention is that it's super important that you remain neutral and flat across the pelvis throughout this motion. So when looking at the movement from the side, you should be looking at only one butt cheek. But if you start seeing the whole hip, the whole rear end present to you when looking at it from the side, it means you're losing that neutral alignment of the pelvis, and you need to put more emphasis on staying in that frontal plane. And then once you get better at this movement, you can begin performing it without support. So here's what that looks like. Straight and tall. The bar path, or if you were holding a dumbbell or a kettlebell, would be very close to the body, just out in front of the leg. So again, shift body weight to the left. Most of my weight is on the heel, slowly elongating, keeping a long spine. Hold for 2 to 3 seconds. Use the tension in those stretch muscles to slowly bring you back to that neutral position. Once you finish 5 to 10 reps on each side, you're ready for exercise number 3. The final exercise here is a single leg sit, and it's the most challenging movement in this series by far. For this one, you're going to need a bench or a chair, preferably with a soft cushion on top, or the arm of a couch works really well for this exercise if it's cushioned. Once you've got that, you're ready to go. Starting position for the exercise is seated on the edge of the bench or the chair or the couch. Knees should be bent to approximately 90 degrees or maybe less if you're starting on the arm of a couch and you're higher up. Feet are going to be positioned about 4 to 6 inches apart, and they should be pointed straight ahead or just slightly angled outward into external rotation like that, like 5 or 10 degrees max. And then from here, what you're going to do is stand up on 2 legs, and then you're going to place all of your body weight onto one leg. In this case, I'm going to be starting on my left, and we're going to be using that same weight distribution where about 60% of the weight is back on the heel, and the remaining 40% is spread across the ball of the foot and the toes, with a good portion of it going through the big toe. Right foot in this case is going to be extended a little bit out in front of me. Both arms are going to come out. I'm going to be maintaining a neutral spine, straight and tall, and then I'm going to slowly lower myself down to the cushion and sit down. Set the other foot down, reposition, stand up on 2 legs, and repeat. All the body weight shifts to the left, right foot comes out in front, lightly brace the core, arms out for counterbalance, keeping that neutral spine nice and tall. Reach your rear end back and set yourself down very slowly. Now, what's super important about this movement is that your descent is slow and controlled, and you have a very soft touchdown. You also want to make sure that you're maintaining optimal tracking of your knee throughout the movement. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. And finally, you want to maintain that neutral spine, that long spinal position the entire time. We don't want to see any rounding of your spine as you're going through this motion. And finally, the tracking of the knee is super important for this exercise. What we're looking for here is that the knee points in the same direction as the foot and the hip throughout the movement. So, working off the left leg, right foot out in front, counterbalance, long spine, slowly sitting back. Notice that the knee finishes and tracks throughout the movement in the same direction that my foot is pointing. If you start getting a situation where your knee is coming across the body like this, where the knee is pointing this direction and the foot is pointing this direction, you're setting yourself up for a problem. Like I said at the outset, this movement is very challenging and it might not be a great fit for you. But before you discount it completely, be aware that there are a few things that you can do to help ease your way into this movement. First thing that you can do is elevate the surface that you're sitting down onto. So rather than starting at this position where my knee is at 90, if I slide that cushion underneath me, I only have to come down to about 75 degrees, and that makes this movement much, much less challenging. Another thing that you can do, like that single leg deadlift, is to have a walking stick or a broomstick in one hand to help distribute some of your body weight through the upper body and help you maintain your balance as you go through the movement. So combining these two techniques, start off in the standing position, same thing, feet are 4 to 6 inches apart. Body weight is going to shift to the left. It's important that the walking stick be in the hand opposite the support foot. So right hand is holding the walking stick, opposite hand comes out in front of you for counterbalance, and then reach that rear end back, slowly touching down. And rather than focusing on a set number of repetitions for this exercise, I would urge you instead to focus on form and technique. I would way rather have a person perform 1 or 2 really good reps than 10 to 15 bad ones. So focus on keeping that long spine, keep your pelvis neutral, and your knee and your foot pointing in the same direction throughout. Perform all the repetitions on one side, then switch over to the opposite side and repeat. Start off using a higher surface that you're sitting onto and use that walking stick if necessary. Ease yourself into this, work up slowly, and I promise you, you'll be amazed at the results. If you enjoyed this short series and you want to see a series like it, but for a different region of the body, let me know about it in the comments section down below. Once we get to 100 comments, I'll make a series about whichever region of the body is the most popular by request. We'll start off with the basics and work our way into more advanced exercises. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button before you head out of here, and I'll see you next time.